to another interview with El Vocero Hispano. Last year, we were interviewing many candidates that were running for different positions, whether it be for the state, federal, or even here locally. We interviewed Iván Díaz, who was running for Kent County Commissioner for the District 20, and he was, if elected, he was to become the first Hispanic commissioner. After the elections, we found out that he did get chosen for Kent County Commissioner, so we do have him here today to speak a little bit about how that process has been going, what has been happening so far, and another issue that he has overcome within these past few weeks. So thank you so much for being here with us.
Of course. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I mentioned that you're the first Hispanic commissioner. We kind of want to know how that's been going. I know it's like a different scenario and everything, so how has everything been so far in the county?
Yeah, so it's definitely been a learning process. Trying to understand exactly what we have jurisdiction over, what it is that I can have an influence on, and then, frankly speaking, being in the minority party, what can I convince a majority of the commissioners to agree on? So it's definitely been a learning process, but it's been good so far.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you were in part of some committees. Can you mention some of those committees?
Yeah,
and the importance of it.
For sure. So for the board specifically, I got placed on the Legislative and Human Resources Committee, and then I am also on the Kent County Community Action Governing Board. And I am also on the Community Corrections Advisory Board. So we should have our first meetings for all three of those this month.
Mm-hmm. So what does all of that mean? What's the importance of those committees for you as commissioner and for us as a community?
For sure. So that basically allows our District 20, to have a voice when it comes to the decisions that are made at the county level. So, the Community Corrections Advisory Board, how can we make sure that those people who are coming back from the criminal justice system are integrating into our society as they should, that they have that support that they need, that we're cutting down on the levels of recidivism so that people aren't returning back to our prisons. Michigan, if I'm not mistaken, I believe, keeps people in the system much longer than our surrounding states. Okay. And so, keeping people out of our prison system is definitely a goal of mine. The Kent County Community Action Governing Board, that department, I guess, within the county governing system, does a lot of work when it comes to addressing poverty and those types of issues in our communities. And I'm hoping that through my role as being on the Legislative and Human Resources Committee, that I can have an influence on some of the changes or policies that are being implemented through the county here for the people of West Michigan. So that's all to say, me being on the board guarantees that our communities, which have for a long time not been represented well, get to have a voice in that process.
Yeah, and luckily you know both languages, so you kind of know what our community, the Hispanic community, is kind of looking for, what issues they've been facing, so that's good. I also wanted to mention about the ARPA situation. The ARPA is the American Rescue Plan Act. Yep. So that's just a big chunk of money that was given for organizations that were struggling, especially the minority ones that were struggling during the pandemic. So last week I interviewed somebody from the Dye Tribe, the president of the Dye Tribe, and we know about that whole situation. So I just wanted to clarify that you weren't part of that Kent County Commission because that was last year. So you start your term this year. Right. But how, because I know that there is still money for ARPA available, so how is you as commissioner going to kind of help with that?
Yeah, so you're right, I was not part of that process. My term began this January after most of those funds had been allocated already. That process was initiated and completed last year. So the county received over $100 million in ARPA funds. If I'm not mistaken, we have a little over $8 million left from that balance. I have been hearing that the administration would like to appropriate some of those funds for expanding broadband access in the county. I definitely agree that ensuring that all of our residents have access to reliable high-speed internet is crucial, especially in today's age. The pandemic showed us that people not having access to the internet is a big impediment it's a big impediment for our society to be able to thrive. So I definitely support that. But frankly speaking, in my month and a half that I've been a commissioner, I've heard from various different organizations or entities within the city or within my district that applied for funds and didn't get them, or applied for them and didn't get as much as they would like to. There's a community, a local low-income community health clinic that applied for $200,000 in funding. $200,000 out of the over $100 million that we got. And they unfortunately did not get those funds. And they were looking to expand their services for the community. And so that'll be the type of thing that I'll be focused on. And I'm a big advocate of universal health care. So any way that we can make sure that everybody has access to health care is definitely going to be a big goal of mine.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing what that process will look like and what the board is going to come up with for priorities for those funds.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. And like I said, I wanted to clarify that because I know that there's been a lot of stuff going on with that whole situation. So just to clarify that. And I also wanted to ask you what you were doing before or during when you were becoming a Kent County Commissioner, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because we know that this is just you guys giving your time for us, but then again, you also have like a whole nother like life, going on. Right. So like, what were you doing before this? Yeah.
So I was a MSR, or a member service representative at Lake Michigan Credit Union. So I had been there for almost 5 years. This June would have been 5 years.
Okay.
I was, in that position, essentially opening accounts, managing accounts, doing loan applications, dispersing on loans, that type of thing.
Okay, and the reason why I ask is because we know that you've been going through kind of like a situation or an issue that kind of happened. We know that you were terminated from your position there, but there's been a little bit of a back and forth type of thing of what really happened. So we kind of just wanted to give you that space and kind of see why you were terminated or what came from that.
Yeah, so for sure. So if I kind of switch my hat, from the commissioner to now a member of LMCU WA.
Yeah.
My coworkers and I announced in mid or late December, I believe, of last year that we were going to be unionizing. On the day we sent a signed letter to the CEO of LMCU announcing our intent to unionize, and we were asking for voluntary recognition. If we would have been voluntarily recognized, then we could have essentially been recognized as a union and directly move into negotiating. But frankly speaking, again, we did not expect to be recognized voluntarily. So the same day that we announced, we filed a petition with the National Labor Relations Board to start the process of having a union election. So we created LMCU WA, which stands for Lake Michigan Credit Union Workers Alliance, and we joined the CWA, the Communication Workers of America. So that's the union that we've been working with. They've been helping us out as far as the NLRB process.
Why was that union formalized in the beginning? Like, what was the purpose behind that?
So we decided to unionize for a variety of reasons, not least of which the fact that people who are bilingual or multilingual at Lake Michigan Credit Union are not being paid for those skills. As I said, I had been there for almost 5 years, and almost from the beginning, I recognized that as an issue, as a problem, and a lot of my coworkers agreed. So I began to have conversations with management. When I got hired in, I was a float teller, so the district manager was my direct manager. So we had that relationship, I guess, from the beginning. If I was able to access my emails now, I'd be able to pull up a history of emails, communications that I initiated with management. By lack of bilingual pay, lack of commensurate pay. So, people who had been working there for years were getting paid less than people who had just started.
And we know that specific branch, it's where I believe the most Hispanic community goes to visit, because I've personally been there, and there's a lot of people that speak Spanish. So that access to them, I think it should be giving them more raises or a good pay for doing that, because not everybody can do that. Right, exactly. It's if you can imagine, every language that you speak, you can work with that many more people. Yeah. And so the issue is not only that people who are bilingual were not getting paid for being bilingual, it was that
the members were being affected too, because the credit union was not making the necessary investments for those members. So, I'm saying that in the investment department, in the mortgages department, in the insurance department, all of these departments did not have a focus to hire bilingual people. So anytime somebody who did not speak English or didn't speak it well needed help, they would contact us to be the interpreters for those people. Which again, if you're going to be paying us for it, sure, we'll definitely do it. But at a certain point, I believe it becomes not a question of do we not want to help people, the question is, are we being exploited or not? So, during the pandemic, there was people who, this was when tests were taking a week or two to come back to us. Mm-hmm. So if people got sick or felt like they were sick and had to quarantine, they had to go home and quarantine and start using up their vacation time, their sick time, even if it turned out that they weren't sick. So then when they actually did get sick, they didn't have any sick time or pay time off left. That was a huge red flag to me. And I brought it up with management as well. And I was not the only one. So yeah, that's hard to say that when we finally decided that forming a union would be the best way to get these issues addressed, my coworkers were in agreement.
Okay. Yeah, and we know that that branch did become a union, so it is a union now.
Yes, exactly. So the LMCU WA is formally, created, certified by the federal government. We had our election, if I'm not mistaken, the first Friday of this year in January. And we got certified, if I'm not mistaken, again on the 16th of January. And in part of that certification, there was a statement that said that the credit union could not unilaterally change the terms of our employment. Because again, as soon as the election happened, actually, not even when we were certified, as soon as we won the election, our union rights started that day. Or not even that, actually. When we announced we were unionizing, that's when our union rights started. Okay. So, we're supposed to go into negotiating here soon with the credit union, and hopefully that process goes well. But the actions of the credit union in the last month or so do not portend well for that process. So we'll see.
Yeah, I wanted to ask how you feel and what was your reaction when you did become terminated, because now it was a union, so that means you guys have these rights and everything, but then afterwards you end up being terminated. So what was your reaction to that?
Right. So unfortunately, I can't say that it came as much of a surprise. Our assistant branch manager had been fired a little less than 2 weeks before I was. So I was fired on the 1st of February. She was fired a little less than 2 weeks before that. She was allegedly fired because her values were not aligning with the company's values anymore, and because she was not working well with the manager. In reality, it was because she had told us that we should do our own. She told us that in her opinion, we should do our own research when deciding whether or not to unionize. The reason she told us that is because upper management had been essentially trying to get around the National Labor Relations Act by saying that in their opinion, we shouldn't have a union. In their opinion, we shouldn't vote for a union. In their opinion, a union is a third party that would come in between the members or the employees and upper management. They even went so far, as in upper management, as to have one of their chief people officers, one of their VPs, email a statement to the credit union or to the branch in which she called into question my motivations and why I was trying to fight for a union. So, I was fired on the 1st. It was a very quick meeting. It lasted less than 5 minutes. I didn't get a chance to read my termination letter very well because I was being asked for my keys and my name tag and all of that before I was escorted out of the building. I recently received my termination letter 2 days ago, and we're still reviewing that with our lawyers. But I'll have a statement very shortly about the letter. But for now, what I would say is that it's very funny that the credit union did not find reasons, or rather that the reasons the credit union gave for firing me all allegedly did not occurred after we announced we were unionizing. So again, I had been there for almost 5 years. I did not have a history of being disciplined. I did not have a history of member complaints. So I believe the process in which I was let go is definitely different than the usual process and policies that the credit union follows.
Do you think it was unfair or not just, especially after that?
Frankly speaking, I think it was because of my unionization efforts, because my coworkers and I succeeded in forming that union.
I did want to clarify, you did say you aren't like the main leader of the union, but you did help kind of create it.
Right, so I suppose I would say I'm the one that initiated contact with the CWA. But now that the union has been formed, I'm just another member of the union. So I'm not the leader, I'm not the lead organizer, I'm just another member of LMCU WA.
Yeah. Do you think that you becoming elected to be a Kent County Commissioner kind of went in correlation with your termination? Do you think that had something to do with that?
Well, I would hope not, but after receiving that letter from the upper levels of LMCU management, I think it calls into question their professional behavior, or rather lack of professional behavior. This was not personal, it wasn't political, and they tried to make it so. So I would say that me being a commissioner allows me to have a higher platform to draw attention to these issues. As far as whether me being a commissioner influenced LMCU's decision in firing me or not, I couldn't say.
Okay. Yeah, and we did try contacting LMCU, but I'm not sure. There wasn't really a formal statement given to us, so that's why we're speaking to you,
For sure.
To see what kind of happened there. But we do appreciate you being transparent about why you were terminated and all of that. So I'm not sure if there's anything extra that you want to add in regards to this situation as well.
Yeah, I guess I would just say, that I hope that the public, the LMCU members and employees can show support to my coworkers still at the South Division branch. If you can walk by and just give them a statement of support, or just say that you support them in their unionization efforts, that would go a long way. I'm hoping that other LMCU employees and employees in general, workers in general, are not going to be dissuaded or stopped from their organization efforts. This is just the beginning. It's the next step. It's not the end. I think we are on the verge of seeing massive waves of workers wanting to organize all over the country. In Michigan as well, we have this rich history of labor movement or labor movements. And lastly, to our state and federal legislators, I hope that they're watching and that they're learning and that they're thinking of ways that they can help protect workers, to update our labor laws that haven't been updated in decades and generations. The more that we can support workers, the more we all win.
Well, what is your goal, your upcoming goal, I guess, with your employment or even with LMCU? What do you hope to gain from that?
I think personally, I just hope to keep being a resource for other employees who are wanting to unionize. My intent was to unionize my branch, and we succeeded in that. Unfortunately, the way in which I left the credit union was not the way I wanted to leave. But regardless of what happens now with the National Labor Relations Board or what a judge decides, I'm just happy that we succeeded in unionizing. I'm hopeful that not only the employees, the LMCU employees in Michigan, but that those in Florida, again, continue their efforts. I'm on track to graduate from GVSU this December. So for now, I'll be continuing to work as a substitute teacher and see what comes next.
Okay, well, we wish you the best on everything, and I know that this termination was probably surprising to you. Well, like you said, not surprising, but in a way a little surprising, So hopefully everything gets settled. We know that there is a lawsuit.
A case. The official term is a ULP, so an unfair labor practice. But yeah, that process will make its way through the process it has to go through.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for being here, for kind of clarifying that and letting us understand what kind of happened to you, especially in that branch. I know that there's a lot of Hispanic people that visit that branch. They seek resources, and there's a lot of you guys, a lot of tellers that are able to assist them because of that language. So, Yeah, hopefully everything comes out for the best. Is there anything that you want to mention with your Kent County Commissioner hat?
Yeah, so we switch back to that really quickly.
Yeah.
You know, I just hope that people are paying attention to the process, what's happening here in our county. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of what our neighbors to the west are doing, and I'm hoping that that does not happen here in our county. I'm hoping that we can have a transparent term, and that when it comes to allocating not only the ARPA funds, but our budgets in general, that we're being as transparent as possible. I'm ready to be a voice for my district, and I hope that my colleagues will allow me to do that.
Yeah. Is there any way that, or do you want to share how people can contact you, just in case?
Yeah, so people can email me at ivan.diaz at kentcountymi.gov, or they can contact me at 616-272-9970. All of my information is online, email address, office phone number, cell phone number. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for watching this interview. For more interviews in English and Spanish, you can visit our website at elvocerous.com or elvocero.net. It's the same thing. You can visit our YouTube page, El Vocero Hispano TV, our Facebook, El Vocero Hispano. Thank you.